Hello everybody, this is my first YouTube video, so please bear with me. I had the need to make a rock tumbler, parts tumbler if you will, and I went everywhere looking to buy one, and I found that little red one up top there from Harbor Freight. It's a single drum, 3-pound capacity rock tumbler, and it works, but it's very limited. It doesn't hold much of a load, and so it's pretty much useless for my application. What I'm trying to do is deburr metal parts, clean the rust off of bolts and nuts and screws and assorted other hardware, but primarily to deburr metal parts. And that little drum on top of the Harbor Freight unit is only 5 inches in diameter, so it's really small. It works great for polishing rocks or jewelry, but it doesn't really work good for anything else. Now, and that cost, by the way, you can buy that at Harbor Freight. That little one is $42. I think the double drum one is $44. You can buy a vibratory tumbler at Harbor Freight also, but now you're running into $60 for the small one and $160 for the big one. Anyway, I decided to make my own. Figured it couldn't be too hard, so I set out, did a little research on the net, and watched other YouTube videos, and this is what I came up with. Basically, it's made out of 2x4s. The long pieces are 2x4s, and the cross pieces are all 2x3s. And the reason I use that because that's the scrap wood I had in my garage, and it worked quite well. Now I'm going to go over the components of this little unit. By the way, the total cost of the unit was a little bit under $40, and it took me about 2 hours. Once I assembled all the parts, it took me about 2 hours to put the whole thing together. And that's only just testing it out and making sure everything was what I needed. Let's start off. First of all, if you notice the switch on the right side end, that's a common household single pole dimmer switch. The bottom outlet, the one with the white plug, is I wired that to be variable speed control. That's right to the dimmer switch. The top outlet with the black plug is a continuous on power source, just like the one in your house, any plug in your house. And that's what the Harbor Freight little unit is plugged into right now, so it's constantly running. Now, the motor is a Matsushita sewing machine motor. It's 80 watts, 0.75 amps, I believe. I'll zoom in on it so you can see it more closely. 0.78 amps, excuse me. You can get it off any old sewing machine. The new ones don't have the spindle with the pulley on the end. So if you're going to get a sewing machine motor, which works perfect for this application, try to find yourself an old sewing machine and take the motor and the spindle and pulley off of it. Okay, I think that pulley is maybe a 1-inch pulley. The sewing machine belt I got at a sewing shop, place that sells sewing machines and different parts and accessories. And the top pulley, if you will, is a 5/8 inch bore, and that's 2.5 inches in diameter. So you see in the metal rods, by the way, the metal rods, I picked up a piece of metal rod, 36 inch long from Home Depot. Cost me $10 for the metal rod. That's also 5/8 inch diameter. And I just cut it in half, so you got two 18-inch lengths. Now, if you notice how it's attached, those are eye bolts. It's just the rods are going through eye bolts with a fender washer and a cotter pin holding the thing on. And you notice it's on both ends. See? So the top rod is the drive bar, if you will, drive rod, and the bottom rod is just a simple roller. And now I put these two rubber bands on because it just adds locomotion traction, if you will, to the roller bar. The roller bar is not powered, but the rubber bands kind of impart some power to it. And believe it or not, they work quite well. I was going to put another pulley on the bottom bar, but I didn't need it after trial and error. Now you notice these little metal pieces right there? Those are stops for my tumbling jar. And this back thing here is a little bearing that you can buy at Harbor Freight for for about $1.88, something like that. Pretty cheap, maybe $2. Okay. Now if you notice on this end, let me get down close and kind of look up, see how it sits. So the back of the jar sits against that roller bearing. That acts as both a stop, and it helps the jar roll a little bit easier. And one of the most important things you have to be aware of, the drive bar is on the left side, the drive rod is on the left side, the right side is the free rolling bar. You have to make sure for this thing to work correctly, the drive rod has to be lower than the rolling bar, meaning in this case it's about 3/4 of an inch lower than the drive rod. I hope you can see that in this video. If you have it even with the drive rod, with the roller bar, believe it or not, the jar will not roll. It won't roll correctly. Now, I sent away for some shrink wrap tubing, 5/8 inch shrink wrap tubing, which I'm probably going to put on the iron bars, the metal rods rather, just to give it a little bit more traction. But once I assembled this thing and tried it, I found that I really didn't need it. I'm still going to put it on anyway because it'll keep the outside of the tumbling jar from getting all scratched up and marked up, rolling on the metal, but I really don't need it. Now, the jar I found is this, I guess it's a flour container, cookie container, whatever. It's common kitchenware. It's made of plastic. It's got a top that seals tight, so it's also waterproof. Meaning it'll keep if you put liquid in the medium, it'll keep the liquid from coming out. And inside, I hope you can see this, inside the jar you can see that crushed medium. I'm using crushed walnut shells. And you can see the metal that I'm deburring right now. So the whole thing is probably about 10 inches tall by maybe 8 inches in diameter. Or 8 inches, in diameter. So it gives me probably the capability of tumbling, I'd say 15 pounds at least, on this little unit. Now I'm going to put the jar on, and I'm going to start this puppy up so you can see how the whole thing works. So you can see how the back of it, see how the back of it sits on the bearing, and that just helps it roll. Okay, now I'm going to use my variable speed control, and I'm going to turn it on, and away she goes. Now again, I can control the speed as much as I want, but if you can see in there, tumbling quite nicely. I'm getting good action with the abrasive medium, the walnut shells. My parts are tumbling around in there just like I expected it to. Rolling nice and smooth. Overall, this whole thing works perfectly. So here's the price rundown. The scrap wood cost me, if I had to put a value on it, $5. The little sewing machine motor cost me $15. I bought it on eBay. The 2.5 inch pulley cost me $5. I found that at a used machine shop. The iron bar, 36-inch length of iron bar, cost me $10. The fender washers and eye bolts, probably another $2. So the whole thing is under $40, and that's a pretty. And the sewing machine belt was probably another $3.50. So the whole thing was under $40. By the way, if you notice on the sewing machine motor, I can adjust the tension on the bar with this nut right here. And that's basically what this is for, to adjust the tension. So I leave it loose when I'm not using it. When I'm ready to use it, I tighten up the belt and then fire it up, and away she goes. This thing runs continuously, like I said, as long as I want. That sewing machine motor has plenty of ventilation. It works good. And I can vary the speed depending on what medium I have in there and what I'm trying to polish or deburr. Just one other thing, if you notice on the bottom of it, I put rubber. I had some scraps of rubber that I put on the bottom for feet. Keep it from vibrating when it's sitting on a table. Excuse me. And also to reduce the noise. And the whole thing works like a champ. So far I've had this running continuously for 24 hours when I have used it. Although I found that at this speed, this is the optimum speed for what I'm doing, and right now I've got 50 pieces of flat bar steel in there. Each one is about 5 inches in length. And in about 3 hours they will be deburred and buffed, if you will. So they come out perfectly. And before I was doing those by hand, and it took me a hell of a long time. So this is my $40 polisher, tumbler, deburr, if you will. It works great. Oh, and by the way, that canister I just found, At a thrift shop, I paid $1 for it, so the whole thing is great. And I'd say, if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably a gallon container. Anyway, this is my rock tumbler parts polisher deburr, and I hope you enjoy the video. You should be able to find everything you need at your local store pretty easily. Okay, oh, by the way, this whole thing is 2 feet long by 8 inches in width. And the two pulleys there, you notice how they sit on the bottom? They're approximately 5 inches apart. Okay, hope you enjoy the video. Oh, by the way, if you're going to buy something commercially that was this size and had this capability, you'd probably pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 or $500. So I think I did a pretty good job for $40. Thanks for watching.